Well, I am a self-confessed Christmaholic. I just love everything to do with Christmas. Any excuse to celebrate, that's what I want to do. I just want to throw Christmas celebrations particularly all the time. I can't wait for Christmas. You know, I become like this excitable child around this kind of time of year. I think I become pretty impossible. Every year there's kind of a slight tussle in our household as to when it's appropriate to start playing Christmas tunes. And I always begin a bit of Michael Bublé just in November to kind of warm myself up and get going. And then there's always a tussle as well as to at what stage the Christmas tree goes up. And a few years ago, we put it up really early. And it was up in kind of mid-November. And by the time we got to Christmas Day, it had no needles on it at all. It was just a brown tree with decorations on it. And it was at that point I thought maybe there's wisdom in what Sarah says. Let's wait till December. So we've done that ever since. But it's still kind of fighting me. I just love Christmas. Everything about it. And as we've entered this Advent season this week and have kind of begun to open our Advent calendars and see the shops kind of full of all the Christmas stuff and the Christmas trees going up everywhere, I want to ask us one question, to look at one question this morning as we prepare ourselves for this Christmas season, as we get ready for all that God wants to do this Christmas. And the question is simply this: are we going to walk in fear? Or are we going to walk in the favour of God? What does that look like? What does that mean? I think with fear, it's easy, isn't it, to begin to understand what fear is. All of us have experienced fear at some point. The risk of doing something and the heart beating, the opportunity to go somewhere, but it's a fearful thing. Sometimes the experiences of our lives have set us back, and there's a fear attached to certain experiences or contexts. And that fear can hold us back. It can cause us to freeze. It can cause us to stop. It robs peace from us as we worry about things. Even the context of the world we're in right now, so complex. And it could cause us to rise in fear. What's going to happen? How are things working out? How do we approach stuff now? It's a different kind of world that we're living in. And what does it look like? And we can find ourselves reduced, held back, and disabled by fear. So fear, that's easy to get hold of. And we have this sliding scale now up towards the favour of God. So what is the favour of God? To suggest that maybe we could walk in the fullness of the favour of God. Is that something we can boldly declare over our lives? Can that be a reality for us? To know today that you are favoured by God, He is for you and with you, and you are highly favoured. And can you walk in that kind of confidence? Is that too presumptuous? Is it too presumptuous to think that I walk in the favour of God? And there might be a whole bunch of questions for you as well. Does that suggest then that God has favourites? If I'm walking in His favour, is somebody else not? Am I His favourite? Does He bless me more than somebody else? And why should He anyway? They're all good questions. And those questions often hold us back from the reality of walking in the favour of God. Because we think, well, I shouldn't do that. I'm not entitled. There's all sorts of complex questions, and I want to look at some of those questions today to help us understand this issue of favour. Because you see, I believe that yes, we should walk in the full favour of God. And I want to explore what that looks like. Because imagine if just us as a congregation, let alone a whole church across all the sites of HTB today, we all captured and grasped the reality that God's favor is over us, that He's called us to walk in His favor. That would change the way we go about life. It would pull us out of fear and into His favor. There would be a greater confidence in the way in which we declare His sovereignty, as we just did in that worship song. It would change the way you go about work, the way you do relationships, the way you manage your family situations. Every part of life is impacted because what we believe impacts how we behave. And so if we were to believe that yes, we are highly favored, it will impact the way in which we behave today and for the rest of our lives. So there are big stakes here alongside those big questions about the favor of God. Now, some of you are already thinking, hold on a sec, Pete. You love Christmas. This is kind of the build up to Christmas. Why are we talking about fear and favor when we could be talking about wise men and angels and away in a manger? Come on, let's talk about that. Let's get Christmassy. Let's feel the vibe and get the tinsel out. Come on, Pete. Well, Well, the reason we're talking about this is because the favor of God is a central theme to the Christmas story. Sometimes we've just not noticed it. It's a central theme to the Christmas story. Sometimes we've just not noticed it. So let's turn right now to Luke's version of events as Jesus came into this world and was born as a baby just over 2,000 years ago, and have a look at what Luke says. Because as you begin to describe and explore favor in the Bible, you could do a word search and look everywhere where it says favor and begin to understand it a bit more. Moses had the favor of God. David walked in the favor of God. Samuel received the favor of God. In fact, the favor of God is all over the Bible again and again and again. And it's no different right here in the Christmas story. It's almost like it's a favorite word of Luke, particularly at the beginning of his gospel. It's like he's proclaiming the story of Jesus right at the beginning and saying, God's favor, God's favor, God's favor. He speaks about the favor of God over Elizabeth, who is Mary's cousin, who miraculously conceives a baby who is John the Baptist. And Elizabeth is said to have the favor of God upon her. When the angels appear to the shepherds on the hillside, what do they say? Peace to you across all of the earth and to those on whom God's favor rests. It's a favor thing. And in this passage, we're going to see it as well. Let's read Luke chapter 1, verses 26 onwards. It'll come up on the screen, but you can also grab a Bible in the chairs if you'd like to. In the 6th month, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a town in Galilee, to a virgin pledged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of David. Really important little detail Luke chucks in there, a descendant of David, because hundreds of years before it's been prophesied that God would send a Messiah, a saving one, his son, and that he would come in the line of David. Here's Luke saying, this is a bigger moment. It's not just about now, this is a bigger moment. Something's going on. Everybody listen. The virgin's name was Mary. The angel went to her and said, "Greetings, you who are highly favored. The Lord is with you." Mary was greatly troubled at his words and wondered what kind of greeting this might be. But the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God. You will be with child and give birth to a son, and you're to give him the name Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over the house of Jacob forever. His kingdom will never end." How will this be? Mary asked. Good question from Mary. I think all of us would want to ask that. How's this going to be? I can't believe everything you're saying. And his kingdom is never going to end? How is this possible? Mary asked the angel, "Since I am a virgin," another great question to ask. But an important detail again that Luke brings in. Because Jesus was fully human, born as a human, but he was totally other than as well. He came directly from God. The angel answered, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. So the Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God. Even Elizabeth, your relative, is going to have a child in her old age, and she who was said to be barren is in her 6th month. For nothing is impossible for God." Nothing is impossible for God. "I am the Lord's servant," Mary answered. "May it be to me as you have said." Then the angel left her. What a moment. What a moment. And right there we have the angel saying to Mary, "Mary, you need to know, you are highly favored." And Mary's like, "Oh no, what is this?" She slips into the fear of it. Obviously, there's an angel in front of us. It's a kind of scary thing. But there's fear surrounding her as to what is this greeting? What does this mean for me? How do I live out this stuff in my life? How am I going to go about it? And fear creeps in immediately for Mary. And so what does the angel say immediately again? Do not be afraid. Don't fear. You are highly favored. Here is the favor of God being declared over Mary. Now, what does that favor mean? What is that word? What is that word there? And actually in the Greek, which is the original language that it was written in, it's the word charis. And charis, literally translated, is like the gift of God. It's the grace of God. God's grace is towards you. His love. As we unpack his grace, we find that it's like his loving kindness towards you. God's loving kindness is for you, Mary. God's goodwill is for you. God's goodwill is around you. He's over you. His grace is for you. And so we get that word charis throughout the whole of the New Testament. And here it's translated the favor. It's like an interchangeable thing. Now, I'm really passionate about this whole theme of the favor of God. I'm really passionate about it. Because as I said before, I believe when we understand it and recognize that God is for us, he's a good, loving Father. His goodwill is towards us. If we really walk in the fullness of that, it transforms the way in which we live. And so a few years I was kind of trying to discover more about it. I was looking up the word favor. I was trying to understand, what does this mean? And I was coming to it with some questions as well, which we will come to in a minute. Like, God, can I really be confident about saying that your favor is towards? It seems a bit like, I'm your favorite. Am I saying that? What does that look like? So I was grappling with questions and wanting to see it. And as I read the Bible and began to try and understand favor, I decided I would look for where favor was evident in my life. Where could I see the favor of God? I wanted to look for where it was. Again, a few years ago, I was trying to buy a bike, and I'd never really bought a bicycle before. And so I genuinely thought, I know it sounds stupid, but I genuinely thought, where do you buy bikes from? I've got no idea where you buy bicycles from. And then I quickly realized there are such things as bicycle shops. They exist. But I'd never really thought about it or looked for it because I'd never really needed a bicycle until a few years ago. And so it was like, oh, that's where you go. And then suddenly I started noticing bike shops everywhere. And they were in places that I went to regularly. I just hadn't noticed them because I wasn't interested in that. It wasn't something I was going after. Now the same reality is true in this. I decided I'm going to try and find favor. I'm going to spot favor wherever I can. Because I want to recognize where it is and see what God's doing in this whole area of favor. So with a friend of mine, I was working with him at the time, we decided we would go after this. We were talking and saying, well, God, seeing God's grace at work in our lives, we were seeing amazing things happen, incredible moments with people, chance meetings, things happening, provision at certain moments, all sorts of things going on. And so we decided we would hold each other accountable and watch for the favor of God at work in our lives. And we came up with a catchphrase, a little song. So every time something happened, we would go, favor, and kind of go up at the end. And every time something would happen, we would look at each other and go, favor. And every time something had happened, we'd find each other in our offices where we were. I'd walk into the office and say, you won't believe it, Dave, favor. And it kind of got more expressive as we went, and kind of up it went, because it was kind of calling it out and sort of seeing it and seeing what was going on. And so, of course, this catchphrase began to follow me around a little bit. And people got wind, because they kept hearing me going, favor, like that. And so they've kind of begun to sort of, what is this? What are you talking about? So more and more conversations happened. And for some, it was a challenge. It was like, what are you talking? Do you really expect that? There were several people I had challenging conversations with, and I had to work it out myself. One of my friends, Martin, who was quite influential and still is quite influential in the Christian world, in shaping people's thinking and commenting in on what's going on and in our understanding. I was on a work with him. I went to Manchester with him and my wife Sarah. We were hosting an event and helping an event happen. And we went up to Manchester and he began asking me, what are you talking about, this favor thing? I've heard you talking about it. I've heard all this. I don't really buy that. I don't get that. There's too many problems with it, Pete. To suggest that you've got favor means that somebody else hasn't. Do you really think that's okay? Hasn't God got other bigger things to deal with than kind of like just favor in your life? Isn't that a bit too individualistic? All of those things. And they're great questions, good questions that he was asking. But I was so passionate, like, no, Martin, you need to catch hold of this because you're influencing a lot of people. You've got the ability to change people's thinking. And actually, if you don't get this, then no one else will who you're influencing it. You need to catch hold of this thing about favor, Martin. And I kind of got all kind of big and like, come on, faith-filled. Come on, Martin, you've got to go for it. And he said to me, okay, listen, I will buy into that. I will explore that and kind of build that in my life. If I can see a practical example of that. I want to see something actually happen today, right now. I'm the sort of person who rises to a challenge. So I was like, okay, all right, if you want to see something. And I did have a sense, sometimes there are moments in life where you just know something, don't you? You just feel like this, it's like faith comes upon you and you're like, yeah, I really believe something can happen here. I really believe. A bit like I felt when I walked in that church. I was just like, something's going on here. God's doing something amongst us. And there was this moment where I was like, yeah, I'm full of faith for this. So I said, great, come on then. God's going to show you. And if he does, you have to totally go for this. You have to understand this, believe this, push into it. And he was like, yeah, all right. So I said, where do you need to see God's favor in your life at the moment, Martin? And he said, well, next week is my wife's birthday. So I thought, oh dear, what's coming next? And he says, she would really love one of these little computer machines, a Wii Fit. It was all the rage at the time, came out a few years ago. They were all the rage. You connect it up to your computer and you can do all these exercises in the kind of comfort of your lounge and, it kind of shows you how to do it and all that. She really wants a Wii Fit. I've been trying to get one, but they've just come out. They're so popular, you can't get them anywhere. They're sold out and they can't keep up with the production of this little machine because everyone wants one. So I haven't been able to get, I've gone online, I've gone everywhere, can't get one. So if God is really kind of, really interested in me, if God is kind of this loving father who wants to, be in my life and wants to help me, then he can give me a Wii Fit, right? My faith slightly dwindled in that moment. But then I thought, no, do you know what? I think God's got a point to prove here, and I think he needs to understand this principle. So I said, great, okay, let's pray right now. And I just prayed, God, you know the needs here, and I pray that you would just give Martin a Wii Fit today, and that he would push into this favor thing. Whew. So we had a couple of hours to kill in the afternoon at this event. So we went off walking. I said, come on, we're going to go to a shop because we've got to get your Wii Fit. And he was like, it's going to be ridiculous. This is stupid. We walked off down to this shopping centre. We went into the shopping centre, and there was a computer shop. It's like, perfect, let's go in there. I've got to have a Wii Fit in there. So we walked into the shop. And as we walked in, we looked around, couldn't see one anywhere, looked around the shelves, come on, God, you've got to come through. And he's looking at me knowingly, you're not going to find one. We went to the counter and asked the person at the counter, have you got a Wii Fit? We'd love to buy a Wii Fit. And the guy just said, no, I'm really sorry, they're totally sold out. Such a high demand, you're not going to be able to get one, that we just don't have any here. And so Martin says to him, well, when will one come in? Have you got any on order? And the guy said, oh, well, our next order will be in 7 to 10 days' time. But we're not even sure we're going to get one then because they're in such high demand, they can't keep up with production. I can't guarantee that we'll even get one in 7 to 10 days' time. So Martin's looking at me like, we're going to miss the birthday. And I'm like, oh no. And so we walk out and I'm like, no, come on, let's keep going for this. And he's like, it's not going to happen. We sat down and had a coffee, got a bit distracted. And, we were chatting away and about an hour having a coffee and talking about some of this stuff and other things. And then I said, come on, we're not done yet. We've got to go and look. Give it another chance. One other shot. Come on. And so he said, all right, let's go. So we walked on. Now, I didn't know this shopping centre, it was a circular shopping centre. So it went round. So we got up and carried on walking round. And unbeknown to me, we went round. And I spotted another computer shop, which I didn't realise was the same computer shop. So I'm like, there's another one, let's go. So we walk over there, and I'm confident walking in. And my confidence sinks as I walk through the door. Because I'm like, oh yeah, no, we've already been here. And he's like, yeah, we've already been here. And I'm like, oh no. And as we're standing in the doorway, I look at the counter, and on the counter is sitting a Wii Fit. And I'm like, there's a Wii Fit. And he's like, yeah, that's a Wii Fit. So we walk over to the counter, and he says to the attendant, can I buy that Wii Fit? Is it for sale? And the guy behind the counter goes, yeah, first come, first serve. It's yours. It's just come in. And both of us were like, what? And so Martin says, hold on a sec, you told me an hour ago, I came in here asking for a Wii Fit, and I was told by this shop that you weren't expecting a delivery for another 7 to 10 days, and even then you couldn't commit to the fact that you would have a Wii Fit. And the guy goes, yeah, that's absolutely right. There's such high demand, we weren't expecting one at all. We're not even supposed to have a delivery today, but a courier just turned up and bought one Wii Fit and put it on the counter. You walk through the door and it's yours. Amazing, amazing. Now that is extraordinary, isn't it? That is absolutely extraordinary by anybody's standards. I was shocked, even though I was full of faith, absolutely full of faith. And I could not believe it. And of course, Martin looked at me and goes, okay, maybe there's something in this. Maybe I need to do something about it. But even for some of us around the church right now, there'll be questions popping like, hold on a second. There's issues with this. Isn't there issues with this? And I want to just bring up 2 or 3 of them right now and begin to teach into this so that we might actually begin to walk in the fullness and the favor of God. The first one is this. Is the favor of God about possessions and prosperity? Is it about God giving you a wee fit? Does God want everyone in this church to have a wee fit today? They're all going to be on order right outside there. Let's all pray now. We'll walk out. There'll be a whole Arctic lorry full of wee fits, and let's go for it. No, of course not. Of course not. You see, this story was not to do with the wee fit at all. It would be a distraction to think it was. This story was about God demonstrating to Martin the massively important principle that his favor is for him. And in that moment, this is what Martin needed to know, so that it would change the way he thought and went about life. It wasn't about the wee fit at all. It's not that God just wants to give everyone a wee fit. He wants us to understand that his favor is for us. But more than that, you see, God is for us, but not in a distant kind of far off, I'm for you from a distant kind of heavenly way. But I'm with you. I'm in the midst of the details of your life. I am engaged in who you are and who I'm calling you to be. I am with you. And of course, that's what this passage we've looked at tells us today. The angel Gabriel says to Mary, you will be with child. The Son of God wasn't just for us from a distance. He was for us and he was with us in person. God is in our midst. He's engaged in the detail. He's engaged in humanity in such a way that he knows about your life. He knows everything that's going on. He is engaged. He's not distant. He's with us and he's for us. Earlier this week, I was with Molly, our little 3-year-old, and we were walking down the street and having some time together. And I just said to Molly, do you ever hear Jesus speaking to you? And Molly said straight away, yes, Daddy. And so I was like, oh, this is good. That's amazing. So I said, well, when does he speak to you? And she said, he speaks to me when I'm going to sleep. And again, I thought, my heart welled up and I thought, that's amazing. So then I said, what does he say to you, Molly? And she said, he prays for me. You see, even a 3-year-old knows that God is for us. He's engaged in the detail of our life. A 3-year-old matters to Jesus. He's absolutely engaged and he's interceding on our behalf right now. Not in some distant far off land, some distant far off way, but right now he is interceding for us. He is engaged in our lives. So no, favor's not just about prosperity or possessions. It's about knowing the goodness of God, his favor over your life. He is with us, he's for us. Second thing that we might kind of struggle with is this a bit too simplistic? Maybe it's just naive optimism to think that God is going to be as engaged in our lives as that. And could this whole we fit thing just be a happy coincidence? It's just a moment. It all kind of seemed to work out in that moment, and there was a nice order to it. Well, I would have to say absolutely not. Absolutely not. I've seen too many happy coincidences to know that God is engaged in the details of our lives. I could tell you story after story. Some of you will have heard the story a few weeks ago about the tails, going to the shops and finding those tails. I could tell you about relationships that have happened. People who have come to know Jesus themselves by a chance meeting in a certain circumstance. All these moments that are more than a happy coincidence. Prayers being answered, things going on. But we might go beyond that and say, well, this happy coincidence about we fit. Seriously, hasn't God got bigger things to deal with than a we fit? There are global issues going on, right? There are global issues we've been praying about today. There's crisis happening around our world. There are wars. There are people being made homeless. There are hungry, starving people. God has got his hands full with that. And he's, surely, are you kidding me? Does he care about a wee fit when all of that is going on? And that's an important question to ask. And it's fair enough to ask that question. But it's a flawed question. Because it presumes that God is finite, not infinite. It presumes that God is going to run out of resources somewhere along the line. And if I use up his resources getting a wee fit, he might not have enough to deal with global poverty. But God is infinite. He is infinite. We're told in this passage, aren't we? that he is establishing an eternal kingdom. Jesus would be established eternally upon a throne. God is eternal. He's infinite in nature, which means he doesn't run out of resources. He has more than enough of what it takes. He can deal with the big things and the small things. He doesn't run out at some point. It's not that I can't ask about the details in fear of the fact that I might use up his goodwill for the big things. He is a loving Father with infinite resource, totally other than us. We struggle to get hold of that because we're so finite. But he is infinite. He is eternal. So he has enough, more than enough, of what it takes. If we understood that he cares for the details a little bit more, maybe we'd have greater expectation that God can and will intervene in the global issues. Again, another daughter of ours, Bethany, she often asks me, just as we're saying goodnight, she'll often say, "Oh, Daddy, can I just have a hug?" And of course, I'm going to give her a hug. And there's a little moment of intimacy and a moment of love and a moment of saying, I'm for you, Beth, I love you. And it's like a little thing, but it's really important to her. Now, as her father, I'm also trying to deal with the bigger things, aren't I? So I care about where she goes to school and whether the school's going to be good for her and it's going to work for her and that she can thrive in that school. So I'm trying to work that stuff out, and that's the big thing. She doesn't really know that. That's the big global macro thing of her life. We've started a wedding fund for Bethany and Molly. I know, they're only 5 and 3, but I need to, I tell you. Chip away £10 a month. It's got to go. And we've got to keep building this thing because in 20, 30 years, weddings are going to be even more expensive. We've got to start now. I've got to start now. That's a bigger issue. Now, Bethany, I'm not telling Beth now. You know what, Beth? I've started a wedding fund. You need to think about how you spend that money wisely. Of course I'm not. I'm not dealing with the bigger macro issues with Bethany, but as her father, a loving father, I'm dealing with that stuff. The bigger stuff is going on. It's more complex. It's going to take a bit more time. But if I only did the bigger stuff and I didn't attend to the hug, the detail, the small thing, she would never know to trust me for the stuff that's to come. When I understand that God is involved in this, the little stuff, I begin to get a picture that he can be involved in the big stuff too. I pray with a greater confidence. I walk with a greater confidence. When I see this stuff going on in my life, I can get hold of that so that I'm not overwhelmed by the bigness of the issues we face in our complex world today. This stuff is so important for inspiring the stuff that's much bigger. Often we think, little me, poor me, little me, God he's not really interested in little me. He's got bigger things to do. And as we do that, we slide down this scale towards fear because we don't believe he's engaged in our details, our everyday life. Does it really matter about what you're doing tomorrow? But he is. Because God doesn't look at you and say, little you, look at little you, I might just attend to you sometimes if I've got some time with my infinite resources. He says, look at you, you're amazing. Incredible you, not little you, incredible you. You are highly favored of the Lord. He is speaking that over you. He's saying, you are highly favored, step into it. I have all the resources, the infinite resources that you can walk into, and I want you to walk in that life. To demonstrate to the world they don't have to live in fear anymore, but they can walk highly favored by their loving Father. And the final thing that we might say and I might have questions about around this whole favor is simply this. Is now God just into giving us everything we want? Is God just going to get, I don't want a Wii Fit, but I do want something else for Christmas. I'll put that on my wish list, and God, because you're a favoring God, you can give it to me. Is he some kind of cosmic Santa where we just write our list, send it up to heaven, and in the morning we wake up and there's a stocking full of exactly what we want? No, absolutely not. You see, God's favor is an invitation to fulfill his purposes, not ours. He has grand purposes that he's designed you for, where you will know the full satisfaction of life because you are in the flow of what you were made to do. And he's calling you into those purposes. His favor is not about just satisfying your whims. It's about fulfilling his purposes. Of course, when the angel Gabriel came to Mary, it was about the big picture, wasn't it? In the line of David. Mary, something big's happening. something big. It's been going on for centuries, since the beginning of time. God's been planning this thing. And the amazing thing is, Mary, you get to play a part in it. You get to partner with an eternal God in an incredible plan that's going to bring salvation to every single human being. This is an incredible moment, Mary. You are favored. Really, little me? Oh no, can I do that? Yes, you are highly favored. Come on, let's get stuck into the purposes of God. That's what his favor is about. God's favor is an invitation to fulfill his purposes. And it's an ongoing expression of his grace as we walk in the fullness he has for us. And maybe this is why God chose Mary and commissioned Gabriel to have that conversation. Because he knew how Mary would respond. What does he say at the end of this passage? I am the Lord's servant. May it be to me as you have said. See, Mary's heart in this is to serve God. It's your will, God. May it be as you have said. I just want to be your servant. And I reckon God knew that about Mary. I think God looked on that teenager and said, you know what? I'm going to put my favor all over her. She's going to be highly favored. She's going to walk in the fullness of my purposes because I know I can trust her with that. She wants to serve the fullness of those purposes and walk into the destiny for which I made her. And so Gabriel comes. You are highly favored, Mary. You are highly favored. And was Mary's life easy? No, of course it wasn't. This was an amazing moment. For her, the Gabriel moment was like a wee fit moment. It was like, what? Can this be? It was much grander than a wee fit moment, of course. But again, within days, she's facing the potential shame of her community. Pregnant and not married yet. She's got to face into that and work that out. And then she's got to get on a donkey with this baby and travel all the way to Jerusalem and then give birth in a stable. And for any mothers here, you know that that's not a happy day. That's hard. That's really tough. And then before she knows it, she's been woken and told by angels yet again, get out, go, you need to be a refugee. Leave this land, leave everything behind, get out and go. And they flee for fear of their lives and go to a foreign land where they are unknown, where they don't have support, where it is a struggle. Refugees. Thank God that Mary knew, even in that moment, God's favor was with her. Maybe that's why Gabriel had to say it twice. Mary, you are highly favored. You are favored. Because that understanding that God's favor was with her enabled her to walk through even the hardest of experiences, knowing that even though I'm in the midst of this strain, God's favor is for me. He is working out his purposes, and I am his servant. I'm going to pursue it. I'm going to see his favor at work in my day. And Mary continues to watch Jesus as he grows in favor with God and man, as Luke says. He grows in that favor. The favor continues to grow in Jesus as he grows up. And Mary watches him growing up, knowing God's favor is on her life through the difficult stuff and through the easy stuff. Through the wonderful moments of an angelic visitation and the hard moments of a refugee situation. She knows God's favor can still be at work in and through her life. And she watches her boy grow. And even to a moment where he is hung upon a cross, Mary watches him and observes the incredible favor of God worked out even in that moment of suffering as Jesus pours forth his grace. Forgive them, Father, they don't know what they're doing. His grace flows from the cross right out, even through the generations to us right here today. The favor of God establishing for us the possibility of knowing God personally, walking with him in his fullness, having his favor set upon us because of all that that boy Jesus has achieved on our behalf. That's the favor of God, and it is upon you. And just as those angels proclaimed it on that first Christmas and spoke out, your favor is over these people, your favor is over Mary, so they proclaim today as well. The angels of heaven are screaming above us. Do you not know, congregation? Do you not know, church? You are highly favored. Do not fear, for nothing is impossible for God. You are highly favored. Will you walk in it? Will you walk in it? Because we live in a world that desperately needs to see some kind of hope, and we have it. Amen. Amen.